What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Thank you for clicking onto this reaction. I hope you're looking forward to it just as much as I am. If you haven't already, head over to the content creators page. That link is in the description box down below. If you haven't already and you're enjoying our content, you know what you need to do. You need to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, but we're going to jump straight into this one. Belisarius, Conquest of the Vandals, episode 2. Let's go.
533 AD. A major Eastern Roman expeditionary force, 17,000 soldiers, nearly 600 ships, prepares to leave Constantinople. Its objective is the kingdom of the Vandals in North Africa. These were once some of the wealthiest provinces in the Roman Empire, until they were lost to the barbarians, with catastrophic consequences. Now,
What were the consequences if they were so catastrophic? Let's just say Belisarius was Justinian's Darth Vader.
century later, the Romans are returning.
I don't think I said hey to you, Jay.
Emperor Justinian intends to liberate the people of North Africa from barbarian tyranny and the perils of Christian heresy.
Let's see if you can do it.
He entrusts this mission to Flavius Belisarius, the victor of Dara, who's just saved the regime by crushing internal revolt. Now he will lead Eastern Roman forces in the Emperor's campaign to reclaim the West. When the Western Roman Empire was overrun by barbarians in the 5th century, the Vandals emerged as perhaps the most enterprising of Rome's enemies. From Central Europe, they marched, killed and looted their way through Roman territory into Spain, and in 429 crossed into North Africa under the leadership of King Gesaric. There he founded a kingdom and took up piracy with skill and enthusiasm.
Look up piracy, eh? That might sort of link into a video we'll do in a bit.
In 455, Gesaric sacked Rome itself. 75 years later, Eastern Romans and Vandals had learned to tolerate each other.
So there was a bit of cultural acceptance there, was there? The Western Roman Empire was already very poor in comparison to the East. North Africa was probably the richest province of the West, which it was lost a huge source of its wealth when it went. Okay, I'm with you.
Emperor Justinian's relations with the Vandal king Hilderic were in fact extremely cordial. The two men exchanged gifts, and though Justinian regretted that Hilderic was an Arian heretic, he was pleased that he did at least allow Orthodox Christians in his realm to live in peace.
So that's why he probably tolerated him, because there was a kindness to his sort of people.
Then in 530 AD, there was a coup in the kingdom of the Vandals. Gelimer, Hilderic's cousin and heir, seized power and imprisoned the ex-king. Unlike his hapless predecessor, humiliated in war by the Berber tribes, Gelimer was a proven warrior and cunning to boot.
And I'm assuming he didn't have any tolerance for Christians at all.
When Justinian scolded Gelimer as a usurper, the new Vandal king warned the emperor to mind his own affairs, then for good measure, blinded one of Hilderic's nephews.
Ah, savage. I love it. Just blinding your nephew, just like, shush, you know what's gonna happen. Ah. The things medieval monarchs and like kings, queens, leaders had to do to retain power. You know what I mean, the brutality that they had to used to go to sort of make people fear them, to not want to do that again. Yeah, he doesn't seem like the brightest at all, Jay.
3 years pass. Justinian makes peace with the Sassanid Empire and survives the Nika riots. Now he decides it's time to teach Gelimer a lesson. Imperial propaganda and the historian Procopius will later portray Justinian's war on the Vandals as part of a long-held plan to reconquer the Western Empire. For the sake of true belief in God and the liberty of our subjects.
Okay, so they're using propaganda sort of to justify that they're going to retake the West, and that's how they're justifying these invasions. Makes sense.
Modern historians.
Well, he was a Christian, not the same confession with the Eastern Romans. Okay.
Historians are more skeptical.
I'm with you.
Justinian needs a victory to bolster his regime.
That
Gelimer's actions have provided just provocation, and the recovery of North Africa's wealthy estates will bring obvious benefits. Perhaps self-interest,
really.
opportunism, and a sense of divine imperial mission all play a part in his decision to go to war.
Which I think, again, those are all things that play into a decision when you're sort of going into the war and when you have the power to. Especially selfish gains.
Many try to dissuade the emperor. His senior advisor, John of Cappadocia, warns of the hazards and cost of a long-range seaborne operation.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about it. They don't really have any sort of stop-off points to resupply or set their ships. They're going to have to go for a very long sea journey, or is there any sort of ports they're going to be able to stop at? Am I sort of jumping the gun?
His generals are haunted by the fate of the last Roman expedition to North Africa. A huge fleet destroyed by Vandal fireships off Cape Bon. Justinian is not deterred. He orders the fleet and army to assemble at Constantinople. Belisarius, restored to the rank of Magister Militum per Orient,
yeah, he was after saving his life at the fires.
General of the East, is given complete authority over the campaign.
Nice.
His force includes 10,000 infantry under the command of John of Dyrrachium, 5,000 cavalry divided between federati and regular Roman units, as well as 600 Hun mercenaries, 400 Heruli mercenaries, and Belisarius' own Bucellari, probably around 1,000 men.
Alright, I'm with you.
An old comrade, John of Armenia, will be his second in command. Solomon, a eunuch, his chief staff officer.
Looking at around
it is
about
not a large army,
1700?
but most are hardened veterans from the wars in the East. Belisarius will also be accompanied by his wife, Antonina, an arrangement that doubtless provoked.
That was and imagine like having to deal with those fire ships, like when they go off, the water is on fire as well, so you're literally going into burning water. Absolutely crazy.
Comments from conservative Romans, but seems to have been generally accepted.
Okay.
She will prove an insightful and effective ally to her husband, as well as a valuable agent to her patron and friend, Empress Theodora.
Very interesting.
The fleet set sail in.
The trip would have been bad, but if you was John, if you was with John, it would have been even worse. I'm looking forward to finding out
Belisarius
why.
believes that much will depend on the discipline of his men. But before they've even cleared the Hellespont, 2 Hun mercenaries drunkenly murder a comrade.
Like, the problem with that is because there's a language barrier, I'm assuming, and just cultural barriers.
Belisarius has them hanged in full view of the fleet.
Which now means that the mercenaries aren't going to be as happy anymore.
Then he addresses the army. If I were speaking to men going to war for the first time, I might struggle to persuade you that justice can be our greatest ally in obtaining victory. For those who don't understand the fortunes of war, think the outcome depends on strength alone. But you, I think, know that although it's men who do the fighting, it is God who judges the contest. This is why Belisarius warns them he will never turn a blind eye to their crimes. He concludes, I shall not consider any one of you my comrade, no matter how fearsome he is to the enemy, unless his hands are clean.
Like, I understand where he's coming from, and it's fair, but are any of your hands really clean back in those times?
The fleet continues its voyage,
No one's hands
making
were clean.
stops to pick up supplies and additional troops. Along the way, 500 men die from eating mouldy bread, which Procopius blames on cost-cutting measures by the stingy John of Cappadocia.
500 men die from eating mouldy bread. Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
In Sicily, Belisarius receives fresh supplies from the Goths.
Okay, so they stopped
There,
at
as
Sicily.
he ponders his next move, he receives stunning news. Not only are the Vandals completely unaware of his expedition, but Gelimer has sent his brother Zazo with most of the Vandal fleet and 5,000 troops to quell a revolt in Sardinia.
Oh, you take advantage. You get back in your ships and you start sailing now.
Belisarius might have been tempted to land in Tripolitania, where Romanized locals are already in revolt against the Vandals. But reassured by the absence of the Vandal fleet,
He's going for the capital.
he decides to land in the Vandal heartland, within striking distance of their capital, Carthage. The landing is unopposed.
Completely unopposed. This couldn't have gone better for them. This is literally fate handing it on a plate to them, isn't it?
But Belisarius is furious when some of his men steal from the locals. He has them punished, then speaks once more to the troops. The Libyans, being Romans from of old, are unfaithful and hostile to the Vandals. Now your lack of self-control has made the opposite true.
Okay.
He warns them that
I see. I'm with you now.
lawlessness will lose them the support of the people and lead only
Which
to
he doesn't
defeat
want.
and
He's
death.
smart.
But with good behavior, you will have God on your side. The Libyan people will support you, and the Vandals will be at your mercy.
Okay, I like his approach here. I like his approach. Don't cause too much havoc. We try and make people like us. Smart. Not Carthage.
Belisarius
Anywhere
orders
but
some of his
Carthage.
most trusted men to infiltrate a nearby town, Selectum, to see if the people will come over to the Roman side. The soldiers enter discreetly at dawn. They inform local elders that Belisarius has come to overthrow Gelimer the usurper and restore their freedom. The townsmen agree to let the army into the city and open the market to them.
There you go. They just got a whole city without being opposed. Holy. This is just everything's going right
Belisarius is
for him.
gracious and generous to the Libyans. Crucially, his men behave well.
Nice.
They pay
Nice. Shows that he's a good commander and has control over his people. So fucking valuable. I'm loving this series.
for supplies and win the trust of the locals. Procopius, an eyewitness, records that from henceforth, the campaign is like moving through their own country.
They clearly didn't like the Visigoths, the Vandals, so they were just happy for the Romans to come in and just get rid of the Vandals, which are currently taking them. So good, Belisarius, so good. A rare general who implements hearts and minds in his strategy. I completely agree, completely agree.
Belisarius begins his advance along the coastal road to Carthage. He knows Gelimer is somewhere inland and could strike from almost any direction. So he orders John of Armenia, his second in command, to take 300 bucellari and scout 2 miles ahead of the main army. Belisarius himself commands a strong rear guard. The Huns are posted as a flank guard, 2 miles inland. Their sea flank is protected by the fleet, keeping
Nice, very smart, Belisarius.
pace with the army's advance. The army marches about 10 miles each day, then fortifies a camp at night.
That doesn't seem a lot to me, but maybe I'm just being stupid. Because there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people. Is it a slow pace? They're just sort of taking their time. It's not a forced march, I guess. So yeah, they're not sort of like trying to get somewhere super quick, are they?
When Gelimer receives news of the Roman landing, he sends a message to his brother Amatus in Carthage.
And what's the
First,
message?
he is to execute Hilderic and the other prisoners. Then he is to gather all his men and join Gelimer at decimum, where they will ambush and destroy Belisarius's army.
How well does this ambush go? Let's see.
decimum, 10 miles south of Carthage. Here, the coastal road passes through a narrow gap between a salt marsh and the sea. Gelimer knows Belisarius will have to pass this way, and that the headland of Cape Bon will separate him from his fleet. Amatus is
once again just good because they know the knowledge of their own land, so they're able to sort of perform this ambush quite well. Maybe we'll sort of see how it sort of comes. Moving 17,000 men 10,000 miles in a very rough climate is not that bad. Yeah, the more I start thinking about it, like the more it sort of
to hold the road to Carthage, and when the Romans are fully engaged, Gelimer and his nephew Gibamund will fall on their flank and rear. Belisarius and his army approach. Roman patrols report skirmishes with the Vandals. Gelimer is close. A few miles short of decimum, Belisarius gives the order to make camp and sends John's vanguard ahead to scout the road. At decimum, they
nice. Do they catch the ambush?
Find Amatus with just a handful of troops. He has arrived too early. The rest of his men are still strung out on the road to Carthage. John and the Bucellari charge.
Oh, he's going to be able to kill just the... Oh.
Amatus fights bravely, killing 12 men before he is cut down.
Oh, but they kill him.
The Vandals' survivors flee back towards Carthage, with John and his men in pursuit. Groups of Vandals coming up the road see the fleeing horsemen. They think the whole Roman army must be headed their way.
They start fleeing.
They panic and join the rout. John and his men slay all the Vandals they can catch.
Who was caught up? Who did they slay? Who did they catch?
Meanwhile, on the edge of the Salt Lake, the Huns have encountered Gibamund's column. According to a Hun custom, a single warrior rides forward to meet the enemy. This is the first time Gibamund and his men have faced Huns, but they know their fearsome reputation. They are unnerved by the lone horseman and suspect a trap. When the Huns charge, the Vandals quickly turn and flee. Gibamund is one of those killed in the rout.
What was his name? Gilliman's. Gilliman just got wrecked, as if he got killed in the retreat as well. Oh my god, this just went so bad for the Vandals. Absolutely terrible. Oh my god, this was so
Gelimer is
easy for
advancing
Romans.
between low hills that block his view of both Belisarius's camp and the fate of Gibamund. Belisarius is also unaware that battle has been joined, but sends his Federati cavalry forward, expecting some skirmishing with the Vandals. When his cavalry reach decimum, they see signs of fighting and bodies. Then several thousand Vandal horsemen appear behind them. The Federati commanders have no idea whether to advance or retreat.
What are you going to do?
Clash, the entire force retreats back towards the Roman camp. Gelimer is now in position to deal Belisarius a serious blow. If he
I see, because he's cavalry is up at the ones that sort of chased the men down are now isolated on their own. This is an interesting situation. I'm really enjoying how this battle is sort of turning out.
Heads north,
lots of twists and turns.
He can trap and destroy John's isolated vanguard. If he moves south, he can hit the Roman cavalry while it's still confused and disordered. Instead, Gelimer discovers the body of his brother Amatus and is overcome with grief. As their king oversees his brother's burial, his perplexed troops look on and do nothing.
Oh, his emotions got the best of him. The emotions got the best of him and has saved Belisarius in this situation. He had to basically take the time to bury his brother first before dealing with the threat. Surely you would have tasked one of your men to take the body home, or to at least separate it, and then the rest of your army goes deals with the issue, and then have come back to the soldier who's protected your brother's body. Surely that would be a better play there, right? But then grief, you don't know what you're going to do when you're dealing with that type of grief, do you?
Belisarius is given a crucial breathing space. He rallies his cavalry, reorganizes them, and leads them forward. The Roman cavalry fall on the Vandals with devastating force. The enemy are scattered. Gelimer and the survivors fly west. The road to Carthage is open. And it fell to Belisarius that day to win more fame than any other man of his time, or in
any other man than his time. Damn straight, he just easily took this place. This was a walk-in for him.
Indeed, any of the men of olden time.
Yeah, his motions are understandable, but just not permitted to a commander. You're absolutely correct. When you're a commander, you just got to put those feelings aside and just sort of get on with what you got to do. That's what makes a good commander a good commander, is the ability to separate yourself. But also it can be the thing that sort of turns you, you know. The Vandals should have had better scouts. Could have been different. Yeah, it could have been different.
Belisarius, wary of ambush, waits till dawn the next day before making his triumphal entry into Carthage. Once more, his troops behave well. The citizens of Carthage are respected. This peaceful occupation of such a wealthy city in such times is remarkable.
Ooh.
Belisarius...
Normally it would get sacked and then they would take all the riches, but these guys know that the best thing to do is leave it intact, because then that way, if the lands and the city is intact, they'll be able to get more resources, get more wealth out of it, which they'll be able to tax and take. Smart.
Sits on Gelimer's throne and eats the lunch that had been prepared for him.
Big dick move. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna eat your food. Yes. Big
he attends
Chad
to
move.
the requests and pleas of local citizens.
Got a jawline for the Chad, didn't he?
But the Vandals aren't beaten yet. Belisarius receives news, intended for Gelimer, that Zazo has put down the Sardinian revolt and is returning with 5,000 men.
But how are they going to do with this now?
Reinforced, Gelimer advances on Carthage. Belisarius leads out his army to face him at Tricamarum.
Gonna be easy.
The Roman cavalry camps near a small brook, where the Vandals catch them off guard, deploying for battle while the Romans are still making lunch. But again,
not taking advantage of the... You're not taking advantage. How are you not taking advantage?
And Gelimer fails to exploit an advantage.
You deserve the loss, really,
as
don't
the
you?
Romans deploy.
You're a fool.
And their infantry, which had fallen behind on the march from Carthage, gets into position.
Wasted way too much time. Way too much time.
It's the Romans who attack first, when John of Armenia leads the Bucellari forward against the Vandal
Romans
center.
get to attack first as well. You was there, set up and ready, while they're sitting down having their lunch. You gave them time to get their army prepared, and they were behind, lacking, and then able to make the first move. You deserve this loss. You deserve this loss. Fool.
He is repulsed. But the third attack is made with greater force. Zazo himself is killed within sight of Gelimer. Belisarius orders the rest of his army forward. The Vandals flee, leaving behind 800 dead. The Romans have lost just 50 men.
Just 50 men. And I imagine those numbers are pretty real, actually.
The Vandals take refuge in their camp, which contains all their baggage and their families. But when Belisarius brings up his infantry to begin the assault, King Gelimer flees. The fight is entirely one-sided.
King's just like, nah, I'm out. There's no chance. There's no way we're going to win this. I've got to go. Deuces. Deal with it yourselves. I'm surprised the men didn't flee from there onwards. Or like send some kind of message to Belisarius to get a ceasefire the moment, or surrendered the moment their king fled. I don't know. At that point, I wouldn't have any
the Vandal
loyalty
camp
then.
as everyone tries to escape.
Yeah, of course.
The Romans kill the men, enslave the women and children, and plunder all they can find.
Of course you're going to. Of course you're going to, because you weren't able to plunder Carthage, so you're going to plunder here for sure, because these are your actual enemies. Like, of course you're going to go
Belisarius cannot restore discipline until the morning.
Okay. This is the time where he lacked command and leadership over his men as well.
Gelimer flees towards the mountains. Belisarius sends John in pursuit with 200 horsemen.
Catch him.
But 5 days later, John is accidentally killed by one of his own men.
How are you accidentally killed by one of your own men? Breaks my mind. What?
Belisarius
you get more context?
grieves at the death of his old comrade. He sends Pharas and his Heruli to take over the pursuit of Gelimer. The Vandal king takes refuge with the Berber.
Any more details about that accidental death? I definitely want to know. Yeah, it seems like they are trying to just completely conquer the area, and not actually sack it. They're trying to sort of take it. That's the difference between the previous
3 months later,
invasion.
Hunger and the promise of comfort and clemency persuades him to surrender. Meanwhile, Belisarius sends one of his officers to Sardinia.
Does he just get imprisoned when he surrenders, or is he executed?
With the head of the king's brother Tzazo.
Okay.
The island quickly submits to Roman rule, as too does Corsica. From Carthage, detachments and emissaries travel east and west as North Africa rejoins the Roman Empire. Settlements and outposts still suffer Berber raids, but Belisarius delegates this war to his able staff officer Solomon.
And how well does Solomon do holding those gains that Belisarius has got?
He sails for Constantinople with his prisoners and a vast quantity of loot. He has learned that a small group of officers, motivated by envy and ambition, have told the emperor that Belisarius plans to found his own kingdom in North Africa.
So Yes! So he does a smart thing and goes, no, I will come back and I will show you my loyalty. That is all bullshit. No, I'm not. I could have stayed over there and I could have done what they were all saying, but it's all fucking bullshit. I'm here. I'm going to kneel to you. I will swear my allegiance.
Belisarius soon persuades Justinian in person that this is all lies and his loyalty is absolute.
Yes, it is. I hope it is. I hope I'm not looking like a mug, because I'm loving it.
Him with a triumph. The victory parade with which for 1,000 years the Romans had celebrated their greatest conquests. It's the first triumph to be awarded to anyone but an emperor in 500 years.
In 500 years. Take that feat under your belt, Belisarius. Take that feat under your belt. Add it to your list. Damn straight.
He is also awarded the title of consul, once the senior political office in the Roman Republic, long since reduced to an honorary title. Belisarius's loot, including much of what the Vandals had plundered from Rome, is paraded in front of the citizens of Constantinople and the emperor, along with his prisoners, including King Gelimer himself.
So they captured him, they didn't execute him.
He's heard to mutter words from the Old Testament. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Whether such events as these ever took place before, I am not able to say. The Vandal kingdom, at the height of its wealth and military strength, completely undone in so short a time by 5,000 men.
It was undone in a short time.
For such was the number of horsemen who followed Belisarius and carried through the whole war against the Vandals. For whether this happened by chance or valour, one would justly marvel at it.
It is something to marvel at, isn't it?
Known to history as the Vandalic War.
What a great and interesting war it is.
Belisarius's campaign has reclaimed one of the Roman Empire's wealthiest provinces in just 6 months with minimal losses. The Battle of Dara had proven his skill as a tactical commander. In North Africa, his victory comes through discipline and diplomacy, and a brilliantly successful Hearts and Minds campaign. But already it's clear there are those within the Empire who resent such success.
Literally, they're getting jealous of him and trying to turn the Emperor against him already, and then try and take that spot for themselves.
And seek his downfall. Belisarius will not have long to rest on his laurels. A murder in far-off Tuscany is about to lead to his most formidable challenge yet.
Who got murdered?
The victim is Amalasuntha, daughter of Theodoric the Great. Her death means war between the Eastern Empire and the Goths.
Why? Why? Was there a treaty?
A war that will lead Belisarius to the gates of Rome itself.
Was she in the Eastern Roman Empire's custody and she's died? Is that what's going to cause the war? Oh, I guess we're going to have to find out in the next episode. I am definitely looking forward to finding out what they've got in store for me.